So, hello and welcome to the MMG podcast. And today we have got Dan from Birddog joining us. Hello, Dan.
G'day, great to be here. Thanks very much for having me.
No problem at all, mate. So, as we were just saying briefly, actually, before we went live, this is a much more friendly time than the webinar that we had at the end of last week, where you was joining at what was 3 a.m. for you. Is that right?
It was pretty early. Yeah, it was 3 a.m. I do remember getting up at 2:30 in the morning, but of course, any time is great. I'd love to have a chat about the technology that we have and obviously partnerships and things that we work with as well. So, but this time around, 9 a.m. in the morning is far more gentlemanly, shall we say. So,
yeah, feeling much happier about that, I think.
yes, that's right.
Basically, the outline of the podcast, same as usual, really. We're going to talk to you, find out a little bit about you and the company, so that people can get a little bit more of that. I also wanted to take a little bit of a dive just on sort of technical side of things as well, just mainly to sort of give people a bit of a takeaway at the end in terms of HX2, HX3 full bandwidth, just so we could do that at the end. But I'll drop that in then.
Absolutely.
So let's just kick off. I'll fire some questions. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
What, Dan, got you into this industry in the first place?
It's actually really interesting. I didn't intend to get into the video production industry at all, but I've had my whole career there. It was literally when I finished school, it was a job that I was really only looking at doing for a holiday period. It was right back way in the dark ages of video production when we first had video capture cards, and this was analog capture cards that went inside computers. And it was the very first of those. So it wasn't even full resolution SD. This was like a quarter of a resolution of SD. But it got me hooked as soon as I could see what computers could do. And I was really at the very start of that movement. I just thought this is where the future goes in terms of video production. And that got me into the industry in Melbourne. And then from there, I've sort of grown, gone through a number of different sort of iterations of that. And I've been pretty fortunate to see everything from SD going to digital, going to HD and 4K, and all of these movements and changes along the way. So, yeah, it sort of was a bit serendipitous, I suppose. It was just a moment in time where I got a job that really fitted my personality, and I really found it quite compelling. So.
Run with it, and done pretty well, to be fair, Dan. What's changed the most then? See, obviously you're talking about sort of low resolutions and things like that, but what's the key sort of defining things that have happened along the way for you?
So in terms of what's changed in the industry, I think one of the cadences that I've seen throughout my career in the industry is that there is always change. We're always looking for some new way of doing things, and effectively a new technology. And like I mentioned just before, going from SD to HD to 4K, there's digital, there's IP. Probably the most defining thing that's changed really is that IP-based video, and that was really the catalyst for when I started up Birddog. Is I could see this big change coming, which was going from infrastructure that was dedicated to video production through to using commodity infrastructure, and that's a dramatic change. Where previously you'd have to have production trucks and all these really expensive studios. When I could see that shift going into IP and network-based sides of things, that was really the defining moment of where we're heading with video production, and that creates scale massively compared to what we had before.
Just to sort of throw off slightly there, because we're looking at various things at the moment. How far do you think that's going to go, the whole remote production aspect? Like, are we going to get to the point where clients don't see the AV company at all, and they literally, it's all fully remote? All they see is couple of cameras, magic box?
Yeah, look, I think yes, but not in a scary way. So I think a great example is just in the last week or so, there's been an announcement that Amazon with AWS now natively supports NDI. And that's a cool example of NDI is no longer running on a network in a building. It's actually running across infrastructure around the world. Where I think where it's going is very much becoming a service that we rely on. Like, at the moment, we take for granted you can do a FaceTime with your family and that kind of stuff, but integrating video production tools within those kind of connectivities is something that's going to happen. Where the benefits come of a production company and people that are actually producing those shows is turning any of that footage into a show, into something that's engaging. So I think from an industry point of view, it's something to embrace, not to be scared of. Is we can have connectivity anywhere you like. Cameras are getting better, connectivity is getting better, and really it's about how we can harness that and turn that into a show or into a story. Uh, it's taking the technology out of it and really becoming much more creative. But with that creative creates new opportunities in terms of scale, in terms of how you can actually get those connections going. But I think absolutely what we're doing, certainly with our products and generally with the industry, is just stepping further and further away from the connectivity point and adding more and more of that remote capability within any of the products.
Cool. Okay. I think for us, that's the end goal, is to actually embrace it. The same as like in the audio world. I'm not sure if you're familiar with some of this, but for example, like you've got Dan Dugan and his sort of it's like a gain structure, gain share system or whatever that started to become apparent, started to be implemented into the sound desks. And sound engineers were like, whoa, I'm going to be out of a job here. I don't like this. This isn't okay. And in reality, it's just a tool. And it means that when you're dealing with, you know, several lapels and a panel session, it kind of takes some of the edge off of that. But it doesn't mean that something can't go wrong with it and that you have to take over and
Oh,
drive.
no.
It just means that the process can be, you know, simpler. That's all.
Absolutely. And I think for me, the dream is, and I think we're very close to it, is we can send a camera that's of a higher quality than you get out of a phone or something like that, a PTZ camera. You can send it to someone and say, plug it in. We'll take it from there. We'll get the color, we'll make the colors look great. We'll get you framed up. We can do all of that remotely. We just need you to plug it in. And then from there, you can then take over. But like you say, one of the big things with any of these productions is the value of production hasn't changed. So the reliability is something that's still every bit as important. I know, I was just saying when we were jumping onto this call, I'm in a hotel here in LA, and the internet's not particularly great. This is something you need to plan for if you're doing a mission critical production where you need to have multiple layers of connectivity. You need to make sure you can still make it work.
Yeah, of course, of course. I'm going to bring it back in towards yourself, Dan. So, you know, obviously through the time, you must have been to locations and various places. Like, what's the most exciting day for you? Obviously, you know, like in my world, I've been to sort of some venues and some places that I would not have even dreamt that I'd step foot in, to be quite honest. What stands out for you?
I think, as you were just asking me that question, is completely unscripted, of course. There's a couple that have come to mind, and probably the most exciting ones are the ones that I can't talk about too much. You end up in
That's true,
locations
yeah.
where you just can't imagine the use of video that's happening. And for me, when you're going, multiple stories underneath a city and going into, effectively, highly secure areas and things, and seeing just how important video is and how the technology we use sort of in a production creative way can actually be used for a whole lot more other purposes. So from my perspective, I think just seeing how pervasive video can be in terms of how you can get into all sorts of really cool environments and see how it works. So I think I've kind of given a bit of a hint there in terms of the security side of things, but also the other side is what I think is really cool is rocket launches and stuff like that as well. We've done a couple of stories before where our cameras are used in a number of different places for rocket launches, and going in and seeing how they build these machines and everything is just amazing. So I think being in the video industry gives us a backstage ticket to a whole lot of other industries, because you always find yourself in a different location, or someone wants to tell a story about a completely different topic. So I just love going in and seeing how other things work and seeing these big machines being built, or seeing cool industries in the way they actually tell their stories is probably the most exciting part of it.
Totally agree. And like you as well, it's one of those where there's so many stories and things, but actually can't really say. So it's sort of how it is, isn't it? You learn where that mark is. So what advice would you give to someone starting out within the industry, and like spanning across AV, systems integration, making products, this whole sort of core industry as a whole? Where's an in?
So I think probably the advice I've got is there's probably a couple of bits of advice really. One is that certainly people that work with me will say, whenever we're doing an event or whatever, I always say, what could possibly go wrong? And I mean that in both a joking way, but also just planning for it. You need to always think there's always going to be something that goes wrong. So you've got to roll with it and plan for it so that you don't get caught out by surprise. And I guess an extension of that is always embrace change, because change is always going to happen. People that don't sort of have an ability or don't have a will to embrace change in the video industry in particular, but certainly in the creative industry, you just have to embrace that. But for me, I think in terms of an in for the industry, it's all about finding things out for yourself. And you can quite easily get a role within a company where you can, it could be anything from in a support team or in a sales role or something like that. But if you're waiting for someone to give you that thing within the video industry or to learn, that's when you just become one of the numbers. Be really, I guess, curious about things and try and find new ways of doing things, because there's 1,000 different ways to use the tools that we've got now, and that multiplies tenfold tomorrow. So it's really about finding different ways with what's in front of you to make that work. Learning things, finding out more about it, and I think from that point of view, that's certainly something I've always done throughout my career, and it's something I really embrace with any of the people I'm involved with. Is if you've got someone that's really curious and finds new ways of doing things, you just got to grab onto them, and they're the people that are going to be successful.
100%. And also the whole repeating, knocking on doors, don't stop.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Is a big one,
if someone says no, then that's a challenge, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, actually, maybe you want to rethink that. Like, we'll go again.
Yeah.
I did say as well we were going to like dive in a little bit more sort of Birddog territory. I've got a few things that are sort of like more relevant to what's going on now as well. So we'll work through those, and then I'll come to the other questions after that. But I wanted to ask about NAB, because obviously that's about to kick off, right?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Is there anything that you can talk about in regards to what you're going to do or what you might do? It might make you feel better if you know that this is going to come out afterwards, perhaps, as well.
Well, that's what I was just thinking about. Yeah, so this is recorded days before NAB, but we've actually got some really cool announcements coming up for the show. Probably two main ones. One is actually a little bit along the lines of what we were talking about, getting NDI and getting cameras to be more available in the industry. So we've got a new camera that's coming out, which is called Marquee Live, which we're announcing at the show, but actually shipping at the same time, which is something I'm really proud of. Is anything we do now is when we announce it, we ship it at the same time as well. This little guy, it's a tiny little camera that's much more affordable, but it's still fully connected. So you can run it over Wi-Fi or wired network connection as well. It's fully remote controlled, but it gets us into a market that's far more, I guess, scaled. It allows people that are influencers, people that aren't necessarily into the video industry, to start getting into this video production space. So it elevates from just using a web camera or something like that. It takes you into the realm of being able to do a video production. And what we've actually built is actually a whole ecosystem around it. So Marquee Live is the name of the camera, but we've also got an application called Marquee Studio, which allows you to do all that switching and everything together as well. So it's designed to be an entry point into video production. It's not trying to take over from a large TV studio, but it allows you to take what would normally be a single camera shoot with a web camera and turn it into a TV show. So I'm pretty excited about that. The other, I guess almost at the other end of the scale, is we're launching a new application or a new service called Birddog Connect. And it's really the evolution of our cloud platform that allows you to have that remote connectivity and also interactivity between different sites. And that extends from, if you want to connect a PTZ camera and be able to control that anywhere in the world, we can do that. But also, we can also route video to a particular screen anywhere in the world. So if you've got any of our Birddog devices or anything NDI, you can actually pick a specific screen and choose any source and route it directly there as well. So it gives you a great deal of control in terms of where everything goes. So I guess a bit like we were talking about before, how far detached from a location can you be? With Birddog Connect, we're making it so you can literally be anywhere. We've embraced a whole bunch of new technology. So we have things like SRT, which you might have used before for sending video over the internet. But we've also got NDI Bridge built directly into it as well. And that means that you can remotely configure, manage, and control anything, anywhere, and send high quality video. And make that
I think that's a bit
production.
of a game changer, actually, the NDI Bridge.
Yeah.
That's something that we are really, really going heavy on, because I can't go too far into it, but there's things and there's ways that it can be used, that we're kind of getting ready for, which is it sort of
Absolutely.
lends to what I was hinting at before as well. This idea of like, do you think you're always going to see the production company, or do you think that sometimes they might not be where you are? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that might not be. And what we've done is really added a management layer on top of that. So with NDI Bridge, you typically need to have that running on a computer to use. We can then control that bridge connection remotely as well, which means that for orchestration of multiple connections, it becomes so much easier.
Definitely, I'll watch this space as far as that tech goes for sure, man.
That's right. I can't wait to be showing it.
Okay, so I mean that's where I was going with that, and then we'll come to the HX2, HX3 thing at the end. So I'll just go to our sort of general questions just so we get a little overview of Birddog as well. So for you guys, what is the main focus at the moment for the company? What's the main direction?
So we've, as a company, Birddog's been through quite a dramatic change over the last 18 months. We've got an entirely new product line. So it's, in a lot of ways, it's really almost it's very easy to point and say, well, we're making cameras. We're a PTZ or PTZ camera manufacturer, but that's not actually our end game at all. We make cameras and we're very proud of individual products that we have. But I'm just obsessed, and anyone that knows me will know this. I'm obsessed with workflows and solutions. And so for us, really what we're about is actually making a solution to a video production problem. So it might include a camera, it might include a converter, it certainly includes software and how that all works together. So for me, I think probably the guiding light with what we're doing is making sure that people, once you understand how a Birddog product works, you understand how all of them work. And that's really deliberate. All of our web user interfaces are identical. The way you control it and automate it is identical. But for me, the big thing is we don't want to make a part of a workflow. Of course, we're part of a bigger ecosystem. But when you join up Birddog products together, they're designed to actually work to create a solution. And that could be anything from a video distribution that you wanted to have inside a facility, through to a remote production, through to education, through to medical. It's all about creating a way of actually using the technology rather than just the technology for the sake of it.
Got you. So a family, nice approach.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously you've started to use AI, I'm assuming, in a sense, like with the auto tracking, that kind of thing. But have you got any other sort of insight or things that you think might occur in terms of the use of AI within?
Well, yes. So I guess I'll give you a bit of a hint here. But again, this is sort of where development comes in, and of course, I don't want to give away too many secrets, or also I don't want to announce things before they're ready as well, because then we have people that want to have it. I think at the moment with AI, people sort of ask, has the camera got AI in it, or can we use AI in video production? What people are really asking at the moment is, does it have auto tracking? It's a really visible example of how AI can be useful. I think that's only the tip of the iceberg. There's a huge amount of things that will happen within AI. And the way I see it is, I think, if I'm just talking about our cameras for the moment, in terms of features and functions, we've kind of reached a point where there's a lot of really good cameras out there, and a lot of them function really well. The next sort of step, where previously we'd have massive firmware updates to add new features and functions on the camera, that world now fits into the AI side of things. So from our perspective, much like firmware can upgrade features and functions of a camera to make it move smoother or make the colors better and things like that, the big moves now are going to be how you can actually embrace and add additional features within that AI side of things. So for us, those firmware updates now are very much focused on AI. And if you think of anything a camera can do, whether it's matching colors, whether it's choosing when to switch between selecting audio or whatever that might be, anything that can effectively do like an autopilot type thing within a production is a great place where AI can work. And right now we're using autopilot for moving the camera around, but there's a whole bunch of other things that we can use to help our production work better. So I think there's a lot of room to make a production look better, flow better, and stories work better. Having said that, we all know that we don't trust. I've just spoken about autopilots. It's a bit like cars now can self-drive. We still want to drive a car though, and I think that's the same thing with video production. I think there's more and more assistance that is going to happen, but it still very much comes back to a person making those creative decisions. So it's about balancing the edge between having a smarter video production with AI, but also having the tools that then someone can interact with.
Well, this is the don't be scared kind of moment, isn't it? In the same way as the
It really is,
Dan
yeah.
Dugan and things. It's like, actually, if it's all going perfectly, great. But you need someone to watch it. You need someone to maintain it. And maybe at certain points override and go, no, we won't cut there. What, whatever it needs to be.
The nature of humans is we like to be not quite predictable. So, of course, AI models can predict what typically things will happen, but inevitably there's going to be something that you need to take over with. So I really think what AI can bring to us is make a higher level of production. We're going to have better quality video. We're going to have better production for it. But the human nature of the way we actually produce things is always going to be needed to make something into something watchable or exciting to watch anyway.
Definitely. I'm just looking over the questions, right? And actually, we've kind of broadly sort of talked over the points, really. The other thing that I've got here is how will NDI be further utilised in event delivery? But again, I think the truth is that obviously with the bridge coming along and the fact that you've integrated it into everything, like I think it just speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? We don't really need to go down that route.
Well, I think in a lot of cases we've got everything from Zoom and Teams now have native NDI endpoints, so effectively every computer or device on the planet has some kind of connectivity point to NDI in a lot of ways. I think it's just around the ease and scalability of that. Like I mentioned, just this week we've had Amazon announce that AWS infrastructure now talks NDI. So in terms of formats, we're not a one-trick pony. We look at a whole bunch of different formats, and we actually support a lot of different ones. But I think NDI really has that scale and the touch points across a whole bunch of things. We've spoken before. We've got solutions that are in the medical space. We've got solutions that are in education. We've got broadcast and live production. Yeah, there's a huge amount of different scope or places for NDI to touch. But I think it's just becoming more concentrated in all of those areas is really where it's at now. It does touch pretty much every device in every industry at this point.
I think it's going to become quite a common term, like even for people outside of the event space. Could be wrong.
I think we'll get there. Yeah, at the moment,
like
we love our acronyms, right? So, in our industry, there's acronyms all over the place. But I think NDI will become, like you say, something that people will understand what it means over time.
100%, mate. Okay. So the other thing that I was going to ask you to do, and like I say, it's more to help people that sort of get into grips with these things, is just explain for us the difference between HX2, HX3, and full bandwidth, which I think we're getting to the point where they all talk, don't they? Or
yeah, I think so. And look, I guess hands up, we're probably in some ways responsible for the fact that we're talking about these different formats. In Birddog, when we started out, we specifically chose the full bandwidth or high bandwidth NDI. And the reason for that is we didn't want to have too much of a compromise in terms of the production quality. What we were trying to do is take live production and put it onto a network. And that's really what the full bandwidth or high bandwidth NDI was designed for, is a replacement for an SDI cable. But like with everything, as we started to look at how the video could be used in different places when Wi-Fi was starting to get a bit higher bandwidth, the NDI guys made the NDI HX format, and that's a high efficiency format. And that was designed really to run on, I guess, not as capable networks. So it could be Wi-Fi, it could be across a campus and that kind of thing, where it was lower bandwidth. So I guess if you look at it from a HX versus full NDI, it's designed to be highly efficient or high quality with a kind of two form. But what's happened over the last couple of years is we've got this merge in the middle, which is HX3. So it's the third iteration of NDI HX. The cool thing with that is that it takes the benefits of both sides of that coin and turns it into something that is really production ready. So we've embraced pretty heavily HX3 as we move forward. So it's still able to run over Wi-Fi, and it can work really nicely on most networks, but it gives you that performance that you really want to see in a live production. But I think really the important thing here is that we're actually moving just NDI. It's interchangeable in almost every way now in terms of how you connect. If you've got a camera that's HX or whether it's full NDI, if you've got a production switcher that wants a certain format, NDI is becoming now very much just an umbrella format that it doesn't matter at this stage. And that's really what we're driving with all of our products, is making sure that we support all of the versions of NDI. So that really it just comes down to, if you've got a Wi-Fi connection, you can run a lower bandwidth. If you've got a really fast network connection, you can run a higher bandwidth.
Cool, thanks, Dan. That's all I've got for you, mate, to be honest. But if there's anything else you wanted to talk about at all,
Well,
feel free.
I was about to say that was pretty painless. I think, from my perspective, I'm still really excited about where things are going. It's always easy to think that we're at sort of a peak in terms of technology. I've given away that I've been in the industry for quite some time now. The grey hairs say that, but I think uh, we're only just getting started with what we can do with video production. It's always easy to go, wow, we're at 4K, we don't need to go high. We're at high frame rates, we don't need to go higher. I think actually what we're at the point of now is we've got all the pieces in place to then now look at how we can have creative solutions. Bandwidth's no longer an issue. We don't have to worry about how we get a connection. Image quality is not necessarily an issue anymore. We don't need to worry about how we can actually get something looking good. Now we can actually focus on how we make things sound great in terms of how a story gets produced, or how a video gets transmitted, in terms of the way it actually gets put together. I think that's really exciting, is as we move forward, we're talking about AI and about how we can increase the way a production value is put forward. So I guess what I'm trying to say with this rambling bit is that we're only just getting started with the next level of what can be done with video production. So I'm really excited about the next couple of years, probably the next 5 years, really, because we'll see a huge amount of change. And I think if we look back on this interview, we'll look at it and just go, well, we're only just at the start of this next step of video production.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm expecting to see things that we're just not even seeing at the moment. Like, no idea. I'm sure there's much more tech to come, which is awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing what actually happens over the next couple of days with NAB. Obviously, this is going out afterwards, so at that point we'll be able to tell you much more as well about bits that I've sort of nudged and hinted at as well.
Absolutely.
Dan,
there's definitely some other announcements that are coming up that I know of that are going to be pretty big as well. So.
Exactly. I feel like the stage is going to be slightly changed, which is going to be really cool. Dan, I'm just going to say thanks at this point. I know the Wi-Fi might have been mildly challenging there just towards the end for you, but I mean, it's a hotel network, so we're going to see a few things.
That's right.
And we've stayed connected the whole time, which is awesome. So
That's right.
basically, thank you very much. If anyone's watching that wants to see more or see other podcasts that we're doing, we've got NDI, Netgear, and other sort of industry peoples popping up very shortly, then just like, subscribe, all those kind of things. Or just reach out to us directly via email, mmg@mmgevents.co.uk.